SpongeBob SquarePants Mysteries Stage Fright. Chapter 4. Trouble. It never seems to go away. You might think Bikini Bottom's just a nice, quiet, sleepy little hamlet where everything goes smoothly and everybody's always happy. Brother, would you be wrong? As a hard-boiled detective, I see my fair share of trouble. And then some. Still, it keeps life interesting. Maybe sometimes a little too interesting. But to tell the truth, that's the way I like it. Give me an interesting load of trouble over a dull search of ease anytime. That's what we private eyes need. Keep us on our toes. It's good to stay on your toes. If life's a dance, consider me a tap-dancing fool. SpongeBob looked puzzled. What do you mean, Squidward? Squidward lowered his voice. He didn't want to start rumors about the show being in trouble. That can ruin ticket sales. I mean, bad stuff keeps happening. Real swords substituted for prop swords. Real cannons switched for fake ones. Things falling, breaking, delays of all kinds. Wah! Daddy! Pearl, Mr. Krabs' teenage whale daughter, burst into the front doors of the Krusty Krab sobbing. Tears streamed down her face. When Mr. Krabs heard her cries, he rushed out of his office. Pearl, me darling daughter! Mr. Krabs cried, taking her in his arms as best he could, given their size difference. What's wrong? Have the mean girls at school been mean again? Oh, sure I'm mean. Sniffing, Pearl said, No, Daddy, this has nothing to do with school. I got cast in the new musical at the Droopy Lane Theater. Wow! SpongeBob exclaimed. That's fantastic, Pearl! Congratulations! Squidward rolled his eyes. I told you actors were quitting left and right. Plus, she was the only one who fit the costume. Oh, Daddy's so proud of his little girl. Mr. Krabs cooed, brushing big whale tears off her cheeks. So these are tears of joy, then? Pearl shook her head, her golden ponytail whipping back and forth and catching Squidward in the face. Whap, whap! No, Daddy, she wailed. These are tears of misery! Can't you tell the difference? Mr. Krabs looked confused. But Honeykins, why are you miserable? Didn't you want to be cast in the show? Of course I did! She bellowed, stamping her foot on the word "course," so that every diner in the Krusty Krab was momentarily bounced into the air. It was my dream! But things keep going wrong. I'm afraid they'll cancel the whole thing and I'll never become a star. It's so unfair! She burst into tears again, floating the restaurant and sending the tables, chairs, and diners floating around the room. SpongeBob scurried over to a drain in the floor and yanked on a rope, unplugging the big cork stopper. Pearl's tears drained away. Swoop! SpongeBob grabbed a mop to dry up the remaining puddles. The floor was spick and span in no time. Tear water fresh, SpongeBob announced, proudly gesturing toward the sparkling floor. Putting a comforting arm around his daughter again as best he could, Mr. Krabs said in his most soothing tones, There, Pearl. No one's going to cancel me beloved daughter's show. We'll get to the bottom of all these bad things and catch the culprit. Wiping her eyes, Pearl asked, How? I'll tell you how, Mr. Krabs said. With a private detective. He looked right at his fry cook. SpongeBob, you're on the case. SpongeBob was thrilled, but he played it cool like a real detective. You got it, pal, SpongeBob said in his tough private eye voice, shooting a finger at Mr. Krabs. Don't call me pal, Mr. Krabs barked. Just figure out who's trying to ruin my beloved daughter's show and do it quick, after work, on your own unpaid time, understand? He started to scuttle back into his office but got another idea. Oh, and while you're investigating, see if you can get me the concessions contract for the theater. I bet I could sell thousands of Krabby Patties to the suckers, theater lovers. Dreaming of future sales, he zipped into his office to run the numbers and calculate the profits. Oh, Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob stuck his hands in his pockets and strolled over to the cashier's boat. Squidward was studying a musical score, trying to keep it out of sight so Mr. Krabs wouldn't see what he was doing. Let's see, he muttered to himself. Should this section be anodate or molto agreo? So what do you say, partner? SpongeBob drawled. Ready to saddle up and hit the range? Put on the trench coat and fedora? Walk the mean streets and back alleys to dig up the real dope on what's happening in this tough old town, or what? Squidward looked up from the musical score. What are you talking about? Chuckling, SpongeBob said, I'm talking about cracking the case, solving the crime, catching the bad guys. For that, I need a partner. And everyone knows you and I do a swell job together. Look how he handled that time Patrick went missing. Slick as a whistle. He tried to whistle but ended up settling for blowing a raspberry. Oh! Wiping spit out of his eyes, Squidward shook his head. I don't have time for your detective nonsense. I'm way too busy rehearsing the music, conducting the pit orchestra, and practicing my clarinet solos, and choreographing my big modern dance, he thought. He ducked back down below the cash register to study his musical score. But Squidward, SpongeBob pleaded, leaning over the counter. It's perfect! You're already inside the operation. You can easily gather all the information I need. You'll be the leg man, asking questions and sniffing out secrets. With 4 legs, you'll be the greatest leg man ever. Oh yeah? Squidward asked sarcastically. And what does that make you? The brains, naturally, SpongeBob said. And if necessary, the muscle. He flexed his arm. Nothing happened. He strained. Blink! A tiny bump popped up where his bicep should have been. Ow! He said, rubbing his arm. Squidward snorted, his big nose wrinkling with each nasal guffaw. You! The brains! The muscle! Don't make me laugh! More! He managed to stop laughing and catch his breath. Seriously, SpongeBob, forget it. I'm just too wrapped up in my musical directing duties. Find yourself another playmate. He dove back into his music. SpongeBob tried to hide his disappointment by acting tough. Suit yourself, Squincy. You're not the only partner in the sea. SpongeBob decided to team up with Patrick. After all, they'd done a bang-up job eviscerating the mystery of the glowing green ooze that had suddenly appeared around Bikini Bottom, behind the Shady Shoals rest home. After his shift at the Krusty Krab ended, SpongeBob ran out, eager to ask Patrick to once again be his investigative partner. But first, he stopped off at his pineapple home to put on his detective outfit and feed Gary. In the kitchen, he quickly opened a fresh can of slimy canned snail food and plopped it in Gary's bowl. Squinch! And he ran up to his bedroom to dig his private eye costume out of the closet. Meow! Gary said when SpongeBob came downstairs wearing his stained tan trench coat and beat-up fedora hat. No, Gary, I did not run out of clean SquarePants, SpongeBob said. These are my detective clothes, remember? Lacking shoulders, Gary wasn't big on shrugging, so he just went back to eating his bowl of wet snail food. Meow. See you later, Gary, SpongeBob said as he headed out. I'm off to Patrick's house. He closed the front door behind him. Meow, Gary said, meaning, so what else is new? Normally, SpongeBob would have sprinted a short distance to Patrick's shop, but since he was in his detective mode, he stuck his hands in the pockets of his trench coat and sauntered over like a cool guy with all the time in the world. He knocked on Patrick's rock and said, Star, it's SquarePants. Got a proposition for you. Come on in, Patrick answered. It's open. SpongeBob went down to Patrick's home under his rock and found his best friend pacing the room with a script in his hand. He was reading a line over and over, emphasizing different words each time. Looks like we've all been saved by the power of music. Looks like we've all been saved by the power of music. Looks like we've all been saved by the power of music. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Listen, Patrick, SpongeBob said, getting right to the point. A new case has come up. I need you to be my partner again. Patrick stopped pacing and... A new case has come up. I need you to be my partner again. Patrick stopped pacing and looked up from his script. That's funny. I was going to ask you to be my partner. My scene partner, that is. Scene partner? SpongeBob asked. For what? Looking proud, Patrick said, for my big part in Bikini Bottom's tremendous new musical show, which just happens to be the talk of the town. You're in the show? That's terrific! Thank you. I just need a scene partner to help me learn my line. Your line? You mean your lines? No, my line. Singular. I have one line, but Mr. Dorado says it's the most important line in the whole show. Patrick handed SpongeBob the script, pointing to a line. Here, you read this. It's the line just before my line. Your cue, SpongeBob said, taking the script. Patrick blushed, rubbing his foot in the ground and looking away modestly. Oh, thank you. I didn't say your cue, Patrick. I said your cue. This line, it's your cue. The line is before your line. Patrick just stood there blinking. Haven't you ever heard anyone say that's my cue? SpongeBob asked. Sure, lots of times, Patrick said. At the Bikini Bottom pool hall. SpongeBob studied the script. Okay, well, here we go. He cleared his throat and read in a loud voice. The monster has become the maiden's one true fish. Patrick looked scared. What monster? Where? He searched around the room, picking up pieces of furniture and tossing them aside. Get out of here, monster! Don't think you can hide under my bed. That's where I keep my nighttime sandwiches. SpongeBob put a hand on his friend's arm just as he was about to throw a dresser across the room. Patrick, stop! There's no monster! Looking confused, Patrick said, then why did you say he was here? Or she? Is it a boy monster or a girl monster? Oh, Patrick. SpongeBob pointed to the script. I was just reading a line in the script so you could practice saying your line, remember? All right, Patrick said. Here, let me see that script again. Moving his lips, he read his line to himself silently. Okay, got it, he said, handing the script back to SpongeBob. He pointed at his friend. Action! The monster has become the maiden's one true fish! SpongeBob read with feeling and conviction, committing fully to his performance. Patrick just stood there. Patrick! SpongeBob whispered. That's your cue! It is? Yes! And that's how you're going to say it? I guess so. So, I should say my line now? Yes! Now you say your line! Okay, Patrick thought hard. Looks like we've all been, shaved by the power of mooing. Hee. Smiling, he nodded and proudly folded his arms across his chest. Patrick, that's not your line. It isn't? Patrick asked, disappointed. No. Was I close? Kind of, SpongeBob said, handing him back the script. But there's still time for you to learn your line. You just have to study it. Patrick made a face like something smelled bad. Study, huh? Not my favorite activity. He looked SpongeBob up and down, noticing for the first time how he was dressed. What are you wearing? Some kind of costume? Are you in the show too? These are my detective clothes, SpongeBob said. Remember? I wore them when we cracked the case of the mysterious green ooze together. Oh yeah, Patrick said, smiling. But why are you wearing them now? SpongeBob grinned. Because we've got another case. We've got to figure out who's trying to ruin the show you're in. Since you're already in the musical, you can be our inside man. It's a sweet setup. Me on the outside and you on the inside. We'll solve this caper in no time flat. Looking doubtful, Patrick started shaking his head slowly. Sorry, SpongeBob. I don't think so. His best friend looked shocked. Why? Patrick held up a script. Isn't it obvious? I've got to learn my line. It's going to take all my energy just to perform in this show. I can't investigate it too.
Are you sure?
Positive, Patrick said, drawing himself up taller. He pointed one finger in the air dramatically. The theater is a demanding girlfriend, SpongeBob. She asks for nothing less than devotion. Total devotion. SpongeBob nodded. He understood, but he wasn't happy about it. Stay tuned for Chapter 5 coming up soon.